Welcome back. This is day 12 of the Choose Life quest. Today we're talking about the most fun phase of planting and reaping, harvesting righteousness. We are told time and time again that God is faithful. He does not change. He keeps his promises. And one of the things that he promises us is that we will reap a harvest. In 2 Timothy chapter 2, we are encouraged, be strong in the grace Christ affords you. That means don't squander that forgiveness by not being fruitful. And then in verse 6, the critical passage here, the hardworking farmer should be the first to partake of that harvest. You get to enjoy that fruit. It's your harvest God is blessing you with. There's a similar concept back in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. It says, do not muzzle the ox as it treads out the grain. The principle is that there is a reward for our work, and it's directly related to what we're doing. In ancient times, they would harvest the grain, but it was still in stalks. It was still in a husk. The way that they would get to the grain, the fruit, the benefit of that harvest would be to lay the grain out on the ground and then have oxen walk around on top of it, crushing it, naturally separating the husk and the grain inside. If you want to maximize the yield of your harvest, what do? You put a muzzle on the ox so it can't eat any of the grain it's walking on. But the Bible tells us, even though that makes sense with human reasoning, don't muzzle the ox. The ox will do better work, it will work harder, and it will receive its just reward by being able to eat some of the grain it's treading out for you. That is the biblical principle of abundance and giving a reward, whether for man or beast, that's related to the work that's being done. If we've devoted our lives to God's way of living according to His Spirit, then we can rightly expect the fruit in our lives to reflect that same nature of His way, of His Spirit. Living according to His Spirit will yield the fruit of His Spirit in our lives. In Philippians chapter 1, we read, starting in verse 9, "This is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight." And then in verse 11, "Filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ." We can expect our lives to be filled, the longer we follow God and walk in His Spirit, with the fruits of that Spirit. We are to be filled with the fruit of righteousness. We can read about those fruits in Galatians 5. Galatians 5 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such there is no law. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit." If we say that we're pursuing God, let our actions also demonstrate that same dedication. So today I want you to read these verses and consider, what are the fruits? What are the results and the harvest of walking in God's Spirit? Because these things are the fruit of living a righteous life, the natural result of planting the seeds of His way. Your action step today, as frequently as you can remember to do it, choose to expect the fruit of righteousness to begin showing up in your life. Orient your thoughts, look forward to, begin to anticipate what that fruit will look like as it begins to appear in your life. What will it look like? How will it feel when your life is filled more abundantly with the fruits of righteousness, with the results of living God's way? Imagine these things. What could it be like? What would that look like in your everyday life? What would a day be like without worrying about your health, relationships that you have with people, your finances? What would your day feel like if you weren't stressed about your job? How will these fruits of righteousness make life more sweet, more fulfilling, more enjoyable, more abundant in the blessings that He's giving us? So today, focus your thoughts on the fruit of all of the effort that you were putting in, and take some time today to anticipate the bountiful harvest of the fruits of righteousness you are choosing to pursue.